But I walked into places, Gene, I should not have been, alone at 2 a.m. with a crowd where I stood out like a big thumb, and everybody was so nice. The Midwestern charm. The city took me over.
Is that your way of saying they were black?
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked ass.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we loved when we were growing up really that good? Have you ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you know what Blockbuster Video is? If you answered yes, then this is the podcast for you. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons, and alongside me is my co-host, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
Each week, we take a look back in time, decide if our favorite films still hold up. The movies we cover are chosen by you, the listeners, who generously commission the films you love. If you'd like to see all the movies we have covered, will cover, or want to choose one for yourself, please visit shatpod.com and have a look. At the end of each podcast, we'll provide you, the audience, with the number of wipes each movie takes to get off your respective butts. Thank you so much for listening. If you have not already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. Additionally, subscribe to our sister podcast, Shat on TV. We review TV series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, True Detective, Lovecraft Country, and Watchmen. Find all our information and past episodes at shatpod.com/TV. And finally, if you'd like to hang out with us live, follow and subscribe to our Twitch channel, shatpod.com/Twitch, and our YouTube channel, which is just Shat the Movies on YouTube. There we play video games, we host watch parties, and we edit this podcast live. All that being said, Big D, what movie are we reviewing tonight?
Gene, we often talk about the fact that our listeners are fantastic. They've been with us a long time. We've been at this 7 years. A lot of our commissioners lately have been repeats. So tonight's commissioner, Jose V, has already done Lady Hawk. He came back, and we get these commissions. Normally, people will ask, we give approval, then they'll pay them, then we schedule them. We had, for the first time in 370 plus movies, where two listeners, last week's commissioner, Adam from Philly, and Jose V, both commissioned Bowfinger and paid the support, the donation, within literally 12 hours of each other. So it was a huge dilemma. I said, who do we go with? Adam was a gentleman and said, you know what? I'm going to switch to Cat's Eye. That was last week. And tonight, the winner of the Bowfinger battle is Jose V. And he said, please, can you guys commission the 1999 satirical comedy, Bowfinger?
Why does it not surprise me that the two guys that wanted Bowfinger also wanted Lady Hawk
yes.
and Cat's Eye? And I think this proves a point. It gives me a lot of faith in our listeners because there's a sense of humor there. There's a grace. There's an understanding of different points of view, because this means that Jose listened to our Lady Hawk review and said, you know what? I understand that you didn't love it. Let me do another movie. And I think that's really grown up of you, Jose.
Very mature.
Well, Bowfinger is a 1999 satirical comedy directed by Frank Oz. It depicts a down-and-out filmmaker in Hollywood attempting to make a film on a small budget with a star who does not know that he is in the movie. It was written by Steve Martin, who also stars alongside Eddie Murphy in two roles and Heather Graham as an ambitious would-be starlet. Bowfinger did really well in the box office, grossing $98 million, and is considered by many as one of Eddie Murphy's best and most underappreciated films. So, Big D, we always ask what your memories are of the movie we're covering. Tonight, it's Bowfinger. What do you recall?
So I don't recall very much about this movie because I had just joined the Army. I had gone off to basic and AIT and was in Fort Campbell. And this was before like the big DVD craze got cheap. So I don't remember when I saw it, but I do have a long history with Eddie Murphy and Steve Martin. These are two of the first actors that I can remember from when I was a kid, my childhood. They were both on SNL. My parents liked it. Steve Martin has hosted SNL 16 times. He was in a lot of the movies that I first saw on HBO. The Jerk, The Man with Two Brains, Three Amigos, which we've done, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. One of my favorite surprise films, L.A. Story. And then Gene, the masterpiece, Father of the Bride. Who could forget that film? Steve Martin even touched my heart back then. I did not have a daughter at that point. So Eddie was a cast member through like the 80s. I think it was 84 was when he left. So 80 to 84, he was in 48 Hours, Trading Places we've done, Beverly Hills Cop, Golden Child, Coming to America. But most important, Gene, Eddie Murphy, not my father, shaped my view on sex. He shaped my view on cursing. Him and Richard Pryor with the stand-up, Delirious Raw, and then the Eddie. Man, these guys, they shaped my life.
I mean, I feel like your father did shape your view on sex. It was just later in life.
Yeah. Well, I'd say more like he twisted it. He more like, like ruined it, possibly.
And much like you, Big D, I grew up seeing those old SNL clips of Steve Martin and Eddie Murphy from the 80s. But by 1999, I can't think of two actors I'd be less interested in seeing in a movie. I mean, I was 19 years old, and to me, it was old-ass Steve Martin. And at this point, post Dr. Dolittle, Eddie Murphy. He'd done The Nutty Professor, Dr. Dolittle. I was pretty much done with him at that point. So this was a hard no for me in 1999. And I can honestly say that Jose is the only reason I watched this film ever in my life. What's weird about it is I don't know a lot of people who saw this movie, but clearly it wasn't a box office bomb. Like, it did really, really well. And all I can think of is that maybe in 99, this was just meant for an older crowd, not somebody who was a teenager.
Well, again, I think we're going to get into this. I don't know who the audience was. A lot of Steve Martin movies. I work in economic development. So I don't know if you know Jeff Daniels, the actor, he's big for Michigan. So he does all these ads like, come to Michigan, where our economy is thriving, our workforce is great. I feel like Steve Martin at some point in his life said, I'm not going to be an actor. I'm going to be a spokesman for LA. My job will be to promote the city of LA, and that's all I'm going to do. If your film takes place anywhere outside of LA, I'm not doing it. And that's what it seems like this was part of. So I don't know that we were the audience.
Listen, Big D, I know you've got a Brazilian wife and a child who goes to school. And Michigan schools, Detroit schools in particular, are really, really bad. The winters are pretty brutal. But I did just learn that they're building like a 27-mile greenway around the city. It's like a bike path. We could go on together. We could go get our conies together and go look at the river. Would you be down to maybe moving all of Shat operations to Michigan and meeting Jeff Daniels?
Well, I'm going to tell everybody this. I think it's good to do at the beginning of a podcast. I want to formally apologize to the entire city of Detroit, the entire state of Michigan. It was wonderful, Gene. I talk shit about it during Detroit Rock City. I talk shit about it like it wanted to be a big city and it was nothing. The people were wonderful. Granted, the city was like, you could tell it was half empty, but it's coming back. But I walked into places, Gene, I should not have been, alone at 2 a.m. with a crowd where I stood out like a big thumb, and everybody was so nice. The Midwestern charm. The city took me over.
Is that your way of saying they were black?
No, I'm saying I was definitely I was definitely out of my element. Where I walked in and like the record stopped.
All right, so 2024 goals are going to be get Big D to move to Michigan, and Gene finally visits Florida. Take me to the beach and watch me just cry. Let's hit the trailer.
Come on, get my door just as fast as you get Tom Hanks.
Kit Ramsey is the biggest star in Hollywood.
Yeah, that's sharp. Do the thing. Yeah, it's bad. I'm a little good in that.
Bobby Bowfinger is a small-time producer.
Hey, Jerry, how are you? Bobby Bowfinger, Bowfinger Films. We worked together on that thing, a couple of years ago.
What thing?
The famous movie. Hey.
Bobby needs Kit.
You bring me this script and Kit Ramsey, and you got yourself a go picture.
A go picture! A go picture! This script is butter. What? Butter. This stuff is butter. It's all good. It's chicken baby.
Kit doesn't need Bobby.
Now get off the property.
How are you going to make the movie with Kit Ramsey? He said no.
You don't think I thought about that? You don't think I worked that out? We have our actors walk up to him and say their lines, and he's in our movie.
You prefer alien love.
Alien love? Why'd you say alien love? Strange people are coming up to me on the street and speaking some secret white language that I can't decode.
But when you can't get Hollywood's biggest star,
He's vanished. Gone.
There must be a lot of guys who look like Kit. We'll round up some lookalikes.
you have to improvise.
Would you be willing to show your naked rear end in a movie?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
Now, the con is on.
I tell you what, it's some covert stuff going on.
And Kit Ramsey is giving the performance of a lifetime.
Hey, open the door!
His fear is so real.
Go, 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 Freddy!
Universal Pictures and Imagine Entertainment present a new film from the producer of The Nutty Professor and the director of In and Out, Steve Martin.
You are going to run from over there to over here.
I get it. But doesn't that seem a little dangerous, though?
No.
Eddie Murphy.
Action! Emily God! Emily God! I don't want to do this anymore.
And Heather Graham.
This is one of the hot scenes, because in this scene, Daisy's going to take off her blouse.
Bowfinger.
Action! Awesome.
B-movie producer Bobby Bowfinger has $2,000 and a script to direct his first movie, Chubby Rain, penned by an accountant, Afram. Camera operator Dave gets Bobby access to studio-owned equipment, and Bowfinger lines up several actors hungry for work, along with a crowd of undocumented Mexican immigrants for a camera crew. The only other thing he needs is access to a studio in order to distribute his masterwork.
So like you said, Gene, this wasn't a huge hit. It did have a viral marketing campaign where the poster said the con is on, and it tried to lure people in saying this was going to be something different. So from the poster, you have an idea of what it's going to be. And I'm expecting Bowfinger, who is Steve Martin, if you haven't seen it, that he is going to be this talented producer. He's just down on his luck. He's waiting for his break. If he can get that script, he's going to become a big success. And I was dead wrong. Bowfinger, Steve Martin, who's normally like, let's say he's the comedic Tom Hanks. He's the wholesome, you could put him in a movie and you get the older white demographics going to come out and see it. He's safe. They remember him when he was funny. He is a fucking complete dirtbag. He lies to everybody. He manipulates every situation to his own benefit. Every time there's like a glimmer of hope, you get Jiff, who is the geeky version of Eddie Murphy, who's running terrified between these cars. And he's pleading, I can't do it again. You're thinking there's no way that Bowfinger, this dirtbag, could do it again. Yes, get back out there. That we're going to see as a heart of gold. It never comes. He takes money from these poor actors. He risks people's lives. He ruins people's career. He takes advantage of immigrants. He fucks an aspiring young actress who's right off the bus. He's a bad dude, but that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's intentional. I did feel like the movie tried a little too hard to make him slimy, and yet I wanted him to be a little bit slimier. Like, imagine Bowfinger being played by like a Ron Jeremy, right? I admit, like the ponytail, the ridiculous outfits, it all just kind of made him out to be clownish. And I think I wanted him to be a little bit more of an asshole. Yes, he does steal a credit card when he's about to fuck a person who he knows is fucking him to get in the picture. I get all of that. But imagine if he was a little more cutthroat, a little more dastardly, how much more fun this role could have been.
But you would have needed a different actor. He's too polished and friendly. You need a Steve Buscemi. Like somebody who looks a bit off. He looks like you put him in a good suit. You put him in that car. He looks Hollywood.
But I think we saw some of that, for instance, in Dirty Rotten Scoundrels or in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, where he can kind of turn on that venom a little bit. I don't know. But again, it is Steve Martin in a role that points out the oddity that is Los Angeles culture. You alluded to this in the intro to the podcast. I am so tired of this shtick. And oh, wow, look, all the characters are over-the-top Hollywood types. There's fancy brunches and lots of scenes of driving cars around LA, particularly the convertibles. And it reminded me of our favorite movie here at Shat the Movies, LA Story. Once again, it felt like Steve Martin making a movie that would be best appreciated by other Hollywood people and not the average guy living in Arizona.
Yeah, that's true. And when we did LA Story, I talked about one of my bucket lists was to go out to LA last December. Right around Christmas, Vanessa M and I went out there. So as the movie's coming along, I'm seeing all the big spots. I'm seeing the locations. And it was nice to have been there because I could feel it. And yes, LA Story, it is a love story to LA. I feel like this is a bit different. There's a lot of dialogue that's like inside baseball, Hollywood jargon about the contracts and the scripts and points on the gross. That jargon that most people aren't going to get. You know, his other movies, about like LA and about the Angelonians. It's a love. There's a reverence, even if it's about sitting in traffic, about roller skating or coffee enemas, you know. Here, there is a different air where it's cynical. It is showing the ridiculous self-importance of Hollywood and the sad reality of breaking into the industry and general fame as a whole.
Now, I might be particularly sensitive to this topic because I did community theater when I was in college. I don't know if you've had that experience. If you've any done a stage production of anything as an adult.
I did a talent show once. That was about it.
As an adult?
No, high school.
What was your talent?
I sang with my sister. Anything you can do, I can do better. From I think it was
Annie Get Your Gun?
Yeah, we're 7 brides or 7 brothers. Anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. No, you can't. Yes, I can. No, you can't. I did that with my sister. It was
Is that
traumatic.
Do you have a Super 8 of that?
Yeah, you'd see the picture of my dad doing whatever before you would see that.
Well, and the reason I say I'm sensitive to this is because in doing these productions, one of the things that actors love to do is show within a show. And I did a production of Vampire Lesbians of Sodom, in which I was a guard. That was my role, guard. I also worked the door and the parking lot in real, like the real door in the real parking lot. But then I also had a role as a guard in the play. And in the play, there's a show within the show. And they love to like, oh, I'm lampooning other actors. Like, this is what theater is like, you know, and they get so giddy over it. And I think that comes through. Once you've experienced it in real life, you see it in film. You see these actors getting so excited about acting. That meta really, really turns me off. And so I might be a bit biased in this, and people should consider that in listening to this podcast, that maybe the trauma I've endured makes me see this movie differently.
You see, but I think there's little elements like when we have the Robert Downey Jr. character who is driving in his old vintage American car, and the friend says something like, oh, you know, something about the divorce. And he says, my wife wanted this, but I got the car. And he goes, well, who got the kids? I don't care. I don't think there's any romantic view, or I think this is actually commenting on the dark side of the industry, where I'm surprised more that people didn't like it, that it became this big like cult classic surprises me.
Oh, no, certainly. I agree with that. I guess what I'm saying is with Heather Graham playing the role of like actress just off the bus from Ohio. And then there's Carol, who's like the over the top experienced seasoned actress who takes it too seriously. You just know that they were really jazzed about doing these roles because they're playing actresses as actors.
I think you're a little scarred there. You definitely have a little trauma. Definitely trauma.
Oh, I fucking freely admit it. Well, high-ranking Universal Pictures executive Jerry Renfro, played by Robert Downey Jr., promises Bowfinger that Universal will distribute Chubby Rain if it includes action star Kit Ramsey, played by Eddie Murphy. When Ramsey refuses, Bowfinger decides to covertly film all of Ramsey's scenes without his knowledge. The other actors, told that Ramsey is method acting and will not be interacting with them outside of their scenes, walk up to Kit in public and recite their lines while hidden cameras catch Ramsey's confused reactions.
So like I said before, I'm expecting Bowfinger to be on the edge of fame, on the edge of being discovered. So he's reading the script and he says, this is the best thing I've ever read. And I'm like, holy fuck, okay, this dude's going to get a good script. They're going to somehow ingeniously work this around. And instead, we get fucking Chubby Rain. And Chubby Rain is it. I mean, it makes The Room seem like a great script. It is bad. And since this movie is supposed to be like kind of based on a real incident in the early 20s, where there was a Russian filmmaker who shot an actress from the 1900s, Mary Pickford, who was married to Douglas Fairbanks. No idea who these people are. They stitched this footage together and made it look like she was in a Russian film. And then recently we had down here in Orlando, there was a director who filmed in Magic Kingdom an entire film, Escape from Tomorrow, which was like a family, this dystopian, like he's having a breakdown because he lost his job. And they filmed it at Disney World without anybody knowing. And I'm thinking today, Gene, this is something you could do with technology getting smaller. I think you could do this with a plot where you're trying, much like with Kit, they're going to make people seem paranoid, where you get enough people, almost like a flash mob or these surprise camera TV shows. Is there anything that we could do with this today that could make something potentially good?
I agree with you that the technology is there, but working in marketing and formerly working in journalism, I know how insanely restrictive laws are around using footage of people without their written consent. Sometimes it's like super ridiculous. Now, in the journalism world, we had a little more leeway, I felt like, but as soon as you're using it for commercial purposes, you've got problems, right? Where you got to get them to sign a release and all of that shit. But the bigger question, Big D, is who wants to watch a movie like this? When they show the movie Chubby Rain at the end of Bowfinger, the audio is pretty decent and the picture is pretty decent. I can tell you, having been on the set of commercial shoots, that if you shoot from 20 yards away and you've got like one mic that's 8 feet away and that jerky camera work, it is unwatchable. I don't think anybody would watch it even if you could make a movie like this.
No, don't ask me how I got down this rabbit hole, but I was on, I think it was last Thursday Night Football. Prime has The Jury. Have you seen any of this?
I've not.
Okay, it's our boy Teddy Flood from Westworld. It's James Marsden, who it is a hidden camera show where everybody's in on it except for one guy who's going to sit on a jury. And James Marsden happens to be on the jury. And the whole thing is about this guy thinking he's on jury duty, but he's not. I won't say it's great, but it's interesting. And I feel like there's potential there. I digress.
My guilty pleasure that I discovered while in London. So Sarah and I got back to the hotel. It was like 4 a.m. We were drunk and like full of kebabs. I had accidentally ordered double the orders. And so we had another like pound of kebabs to go through. And so we're sitting there with shawarma and kofta. And there's a thing called Gogglebox. And I don't know if you've seen this, but Gogglebox is watching people watch TV. And it's in these living rooms of English households where they have, of course, they agree to have the camera in there, but it's them. So it'll take like 6 different families, but they're all watching the same program and just their different reactions to the thing. I don't watch a lot of TV, but I can tell you there is a place for this television that I think as we grow up, we kind of lose in our lives, which is that late night, you're shit-faced, you're full of like crappy food, and it's just, you can't pay attention to something, right? But you need something like this. So maybe in that state, The Jury would make sense. And Big D, what I'm about to say, I'm glad we're 20 minutes into the podcast now so that 90% of the audience has already shut it off. And I can get into something I'm about to say, which is going to be, it's going to sound controversial, but this has history. I guarantee you guys on Shat the Movies. We've talked about this before. And I beg everyone listening to really consider the nuance of what I'm going to say before calling me out as a racist. And that is that Black characters in films who happen to be Black are generally more entertaining than Black characters who play up their Blackness for laughs. And we've talked about this on previous episodes. And I understand that this movie is satire, right? So Eddie Murphy is playing satirically a Black action star. But he always loses me in all of his roles when he takes on what I call his boogie in your butt affect. I don't know if you've heard that song, Boogie in Your Butt, but it's an Eddie Murphy song. And when he sings it or raps it, he has this affect, this voice and accent that he puts on. And it's really off-putting. And it's unfortunate because the movie itself has some funny lines. Like when Kit is trying to combine Oscar tropes to build the ultimate award-winning character, and he comes up with Buck the Wonder Slave. Like, that is funny. The script is funny. Eddie Murphy's performance as Kit Ramsey, I don't think it is.
Okay, so I think you got to take a step back here. In general, I think sports, in film, in comedy, people are lazy. People find a formula that works. Look at Dane Cook. That dude was the biggest comedian for a couple years there. He could not change. He was a one-trick pony, and he flamed out. A lot of people get fame early on, and they just fall back on it. They think it's always going to work. Let's go to Eddie Murphy. I said Saturday Night Live, 80 to 84. What is he known for in his past? It is buckwheat. It is Gumby. It is Velvet Jones. It is Billy Ray Valentine. That's what he was known for. And I think he's better than the Kit role. And I think that's the point Eddie is making. That's the point that this movie is making. Besides just shining a light on the film industry, we're meant to look at him as that stereotype of that booty in your butt character that you said. I
Boogie
think you're
in your butt.
Boogie in your butt. That's completely. And Gene, also, I want you to know that this film was nominated for a 2000 Black Reel Awards Best Actor.
Is that Black REEL or EAL?
Oh, it's like Kevin Brackett. I think this might be the Kevin Brackett, the Black Reel Awards, REEL.
Can I tell you what I wouldn't give to have Kevin Brackett do a podcast where he only reviews Black movies or movies starring predominantly Black people?
Well, with what level of blackness, Gene? Are we taking people who play up their blackness, or is it a Black character who happens to be Black? What are we talking about?
I think the blacker the better when it comes to Kevin. I just really want to see him navigate that. But I think my point is that that's fine for a skit. You know, you talked about kind of Eddie Murphy's work on Saturday Night Live, but this shit goes on for like 90 minutes. I felt like it was a bit grating for a feature film.
But I think this is his attempt to break out of that stereotype. We're going to get into it later on, but this is 99, right? This is the 2000 award season. 2007, he is up for the best performance in an actor in a supporting role for Dreamgirls. So I think he's aware of what it took at this point for a Black actor to get, up for an Oscar. And it was to get beaten like a slave. Just like you don't go full retard. I know that's not politically correct, but at the time, Eddie was right.
I'm just really glad that you went that far toward the edge. So now everything I just said sounds incredibly safe.
Oh, you're very sensitive.
Thanks, Big D. Thanks for jumping on that grenade.
I took it for you.
Ramsey, who is a member of an organization called Mindhead, swallows the movie's alien invasion premise and believes he is genuinely being stalked by aliens. So he goes into hiding to maintain his sanity, stalling the film's production. Bowfinger resorts to hiring a naive and amiable Ramsey lookalike named Jiff, who later reveals that he is Kit's twin brother. Using this new knowledge, Bowfinger tasks Jiff with finding out Kit's location and plans so they can ambush him and film the final scene. So, Big D, I know you hate when actors play multiple roles in a film. But in this case, I think Eddie Murphy is at his best in Bowfinger when he plays Jiff. And we talked about how he's playing Kit. I didn't care for it. Jiff, on the other hand, I really like. He's terrifically awkward. And Eddie Murphy ad-libbed a lot of these lines, giving us some of the best material in the movie. Like when Jiff is asked if he'd be willing to cut his hair, and he says it's usually better if someone else does it. That's fucking hilarious. Eddie Murphy can be funny, but I feel like it's when he gets rid of that typecast personality and ventures into other areas.
Then there is about 15 seconds of awkward, like everyone looking at each other. He goes, I've had accidents. Or, there is something about him. And I want to clarify my stance. I hate Mike Myers playing 4 different versions of Mike Myers in different wacky costumes, a fat suit, glasses. I'm going to play my father. I'm going to play fucking fat bastard. Eddie Murphy here as Kit and as Jiff, they're 2 different characters. I love Jiff. And I think his performance, his fear running across that street and admitting later on when he is Kit's brother, and how he's finally found friends and to take advantage of them, and his belief that creating something, when he says, when I'm delivering coffee, it's like I'm actually doing something. I'm starting it. I'm getting it done. This is better than pretending to be someone. I love Jiff, and I love this performance.
Yeah, he's fantastic throughout. I mean, when he first sees Heather Graham's boobs, and he just like, "You're doing great, you're doing great," fucking good. Or when he just keeps yelling out "Heavenly Father," it's like it's really, really good work. But Big D, I got to point out now, Mike Myers, you pointed that one out, Mel Brooks, and you were kind of on the fence, as I recall, on Michael J. Fox. Like it made sense, but you didn't really love it. It sounds like what you're saying is it's okay for a person to be multiple roles as long as you like the actor.
No, here I'll say it. So Eddie Murphy as all of the nutty professor characters, that I think was just kind of lame.
Okay.
They're all just, it's almost like Tropic Thunder, where you have the parody that Jack Black is in about, I think what they call it, the farters or whatever that was called. Michael J. Fox, he's playing his son, and that's okay. I'm saying be something different. There's him just smiling, Gene, with those braces. Eddie Murphy looks humble. He looks vulnerable. This is not Eddie Murphy, the superstar. This reminds me, and I just mentioned Tropic Thunder. Tom Cruise playing that executive with the fat hands and doing his dance in Tropic Thunder. That was such a divergence from what he was known for. I think this was a step for Eddie. And I've already said how I think this is a negative or a really harsh view of the Hollywood industry. Now, I'm pretty sure that non-Hollywood viewers, okay, would understand that the mind head we're talking about here, there's like this cult, this religion. It's a parody of Scientology. And this is a long time before the documentary with 2015 Going Clear. That's when everybody became aware of Scientology and how bad it was and how they were abusing people. And when this came out, I think it's bold. You got Martin, who starred in it and wrote it, Frank Oz. They were brave to mock Scientology, but at the same time, they were pussies. They did not go full fucking measure. They interviewed Heather Graham, and she said, oh, yeah, the Scientology thing, yeah, it's funny. Immediately, you had Steve Martin back up and say, no, this is just, it's just a general pastiche of spiritual guidance groups. He was afraid to admit, and even Scientology came out and said, basically, no, this is not about us. They would not do that about us. And it was kind of brave for them to make fun of Scientology at a time where Scientology was not out there for known what they were.
I'm glad you brought up Mindhead because I wanted to talk about Terrence Stamp a little bit. He's terrific as the Mindhead leader, but I felt like he and Eddie Murphy were like in two different movies, right? Their interactions didn't really work out. And as you said, it might be that one of them was acting satirically and the other one was playing his role fairly straight, but there just seemed to be a clash of chemistry there. It felt like Terrence Stamp was acting and Eddie Murphy was just trying desperately to be funny. I don't know. I mean, listen, I loved Coming to America. Beverly Hills Cop was, okay, but I don't know if Eddie Murphy fell into a trap here where he was surrounded by actors that were just superior to him, and he ends up sticking out like a sore thumb, like you in a Detroit bar.
I think Kit is Tom Cruise on Oprah's couch, jumping around about Scientology. Daisy is a thinly veiled jab at Anne Heche. Okay, she's from Ohio. She came there. She became romantically involved with a bunch of older men. Steve Martin's last line, and then she says, I'm getting involved with a powerful lesbian. That's Ellen DeGeneres. I think he's making direct lines of comparison to actors in Hollywood that Kit isn't Kit. Kit is more like an analogy for most powerful Scientology actors.
I can't believe you would talk shit about the dead like a year after their passing. It's harsh.
Oh, Anne Heche?
Yeah, she died in a car crash a year ago.
Yeah, she was shit-faced, wasn't she? I don't feel bad if you were drunk driving.
Oh, now we can't drive drunk?
No. I'm not going to feel sorry for you. None of our audience feels bad, Gene. I know you don't either.
Though otherwise pleased with Kit's unscripted dialogue, Bowfinger considers his character's final line, "Gotcha, suckers," to be the key moment of the film. Bowfinger directs Daisy to guide Kit by pretending to show him how to get rid of the aliens. When Kit becomes terrified and struggles to deliver his final line, his Mindhead mentor, Terry Strichter, shows up at the observatory and shuts down production. So Big D, as we get closer to the end of the film, Bowfinger reveals this incredible set piece. It does have some merit, this film. And one of those things is the set piece. It's a crane that they decided to disguise so that Kit wouldn't know that he was being filmed. And the disguise that they went with was like an ice cream van with a tree branch, and the cameraman is in the tree branch. It's so over the top. It's so silly. You can't help but love it. But as I saw that, I started thinking about how they filmed this movie, Bowfinger. And once you realize there were actual people filming this movie, you realize that they had some pretty elaborate camera work that's very involved to make this. They've got panning shots through buildings. There's these overhead shots. There's shots through windows shooting the camera that's shooting the scene. And I couldn't help but think, this is pretty impressive. But then I started to think, maybe this is unnecessary. Because remember things like Spinal Tap, right? A mockumentary. You don't need to go through all this trouble. And I thought, holy crap, this movie would be so much funnier as a mockumentary about the making of Chubby Rain. It'd be a lot easier to film that way. But also, I think that you'd get that satire across a little bit better if it didn't have such great production value.
So one of the things I like about doing this podcast is you learn things about movies that if this was on Netflix, okay, or I rented this, when I watched it and it was over, I would just move on. But with the podcast, you and I respect our great listeners like Jose. So we do some research. They filmed parts of this movie like guerrilla style, like they do in the movie. So they had hidden some cameras. There were times where actors or people in the scenes are reacting and it's natural because they're like, holy shit, it's Eddie Murphy. In the movie, it works because they're like, holy shit, it's Kit. They went out and filmed these scenes and made it look somewhat like it was a mockumentary or something, like it was a guerrilla film. And they put a lot of effort into it. And the production value, it is hilarious. And I love what they do. And I do feel like this, though, is going back to what I talked about, how this is not a love letter to LA. This is like an indictment. There is like, as much as I'm laughing, there is a dark side to this film that I'm feeling like it's kind of like when you're passive aggressive to someone and you're like, oh, no, that's good. You look nice. And you can tell what they're saying. I'm laughing, but I feel like they're tearing down the entire studio system. It's okay. Lie, cheat, steal, hurt anyone, the small people. It doesn't matter. And beyond the laughs, I felt bad for these aspiring actors. Everyone is doing whatever they can to get a big break. Everyone's feeling like they're one step away and they just got to meet the right person. And this is like Boogie Nights. Now, Boogie Night, we didn't have any limousine forced sex, or we didn't have any of the graphic stuff that we had there. But if you gave me an option, Gene, if you said to me, 50-50, you flip a coin, you are going to be, I don't want to say Brad Pitt, but you're going to be a successful, you're going to be Tobey Maguire, or you're going to be homeless and a nobody. I would turn it down because this seems like such a sad, tormented like existence.
I recently read an article that said 57% of kids in a survey said that they would like to be an influencer, like professionally, right? And I know we're podcasters, right? But we have our day jobs. And I can't think of anything more frightening than having your livelihood dependent on tastes, right? Because at some point you're going to fall out of favor. But more importantly, you know, you and I, if somebody writes in and they say, I hate your podcast, or they write a nasty review, or they write a nasty comment on YouTube or whatever, or give us a bad review on Apple Podcast. You shouldn't, by the way. Everyone give us 5 stars. But if they do, we can shrug it off because you know what? The paycheck's still coming. We can still feed our families. We're going to be fine. You know, if people stop listening to this podcast, if the commissions stop rolling in, we're going to be okay. Imagine if we had to keep our numbers up in order to eat.
Oh,
right?
My God.
Terrifying, right? Absolutely terrifying. Or what if you hook up with the wrong agent? What if you do that one movie where it gets panned and your career is done? And I think about this with my cousins, you know, who have all of the stuff that they do with, you know, with the Nelk Boys and with Full Send and all that, right? They have figured out how to get what's hot and how to monetize that and how to merchandise on that. The game that they play, I could never play because it's just not me. Like it's not generally me. And I'm not criticizing them by any means, but I know I don't have what it takes to make a living this way. I'm just not that guy.
No, I totally agree. And if you watch any of the stuff about like Mr. Beast, he's broken down to a science. And if this is going to be your job and this is going to be what you want to do, you put your time into it and you focus on it. But the fear, you're right, Gene, of just not being good enough or doing whatever you feel like you have to try to survive. There's that point where Bowfinger says, I'm 50. After 50, nobody listens to you. The fear that you are up against, not only you're fighting uphill to get noticed, but if you don't do it within a certain time frame, you're irrelevant, you're invisible, and how people can fall off of fame. And I know Hollywood's mistreatment of actors, male and female, the sexual abuse, the whole Me Too movement with Harvey Weinstein and the trial. We know that Hollywood does not respect the talent. That, you know, it is bad. It is dirty. So here we meet Daisy. She's fresh off the bus. And I'm thinking about Axl Rose getting off the bus in Welcome to the Jungle. He's fresh-faced. He's from Ohio. He's got his bags there, you know. And she's trading sexual favors for roles. Each person she finds. And, oh, okay. Oh, you don't write the script? Okay. She starts sleeping with everybody to get up there. if I'm an actor, I got to be honest with you. If I'm out in LA and it's the difference between me making it or not, and there's some like hag, some executive who's like a beast. It is like Roseanne Barr at 70, who's like, come on, Tiger, you really jarred something loose. I'm sorry, I'm doing it. And I don't know, should we feel bad for Daisy because she's a victim of the system? Or should we respect her because she's doing what it takes to succeed?
I think the film establishes intelligently and correctly that she is totally in control of the situation. She's like a better looking, younger version of Bowfinger. And I think that Daisy and Bowfinger find common ground there. There's a recognition. Like when he corners her after finding out that she fucked Jiff, and he's like, you fucked Jiff. And she says, so? And that's it, right? You're right, I guess. And I hadn't looked at it that way.
Yeah, he says, all right, I guess I'll pick you up at 8.
So I wouldn't be surprised if Bowfinger encouraged her to fuck Kit to get access to him. Nobody ignored her or pressured her to do what she was doing. She was just ambitious.
Well, she fucked Jeff, not Kit.
No, but you see her with Kit later in the movie.
Hey, what, you slut-shaming her? Come on. This might be in a relationship.
A relationship that involves fucking, probably.
No, she fucking probably blew him in the theater. Yeah.
Well, defeated Bowfinger discovers footage of Kit exposing himself to the Laker girls. He uses it to blackmail Strichter, threatening to release it and ruin Ramsey's career. After Mindhead advises Kit to finish the project, Bowfinger and the cast and crew finally get to attend the film's premiere. Bowfinger receives an offer to direct a martial arts film in Taiwan starring Jiff Ramsey called Fake Purse Ninjas. Big D, I want to take a moment and send a shout out to the undocumented camera crew in Bowfinger. While everyone else in this movie is bungling their way through scenes or doing some dastardly deeds, these guys are just doing honest work. Steady, talented, professional gentlemen. And we discovered through the film that these guys are students of film and they quickly insert themselves into the Hollywood way of life. They get a wardrobe upgrade. They're taking calls on their actual cell phones, not fake cell phones. But I got to ask, why weren't they invited to the Chubby Rain premiere? I feel like it's an injustice. These guys did all the hard work. I feel like they are the real masterminds behind this film.
No, but I think they're the ones who got a career. If you watch them when it ends, when they're watching the B-roll, right? When they finally discover the video of him exposing himself, listen, they went from not speaking English to coming across the border. They're speaking fluent English. They're all dressed in like Dockers and like button down fucking like polos. And they're talking about the aperture settings and the ring glow and how to light a set. They've become professionals. And I think it is that full transition. These guys, you have Heather Graham coming in, Daisy, about how you come to LA, how you either succeed, you rise, you fall. They're the ones who have a full career. And they might be in some of the best. They might be in a box, Gene. Because if you put Bowfinger up front, you know, you don't know where they are, but it just hit me. You know, here we're talking about what made the end of this movie possible was the fact that they got blackmail video of Kit finally exposing himself to the Laker girls. This is 2 years, this film, after Eddie Murphy got pulled over by the police with the transsexual prostitute in his car. Is there any chance that Eddie here was somehow mocking that situation about being caught in a compromising situation? And how it negatively affected his career, and he was kind of somewhat blackmailed into maybe just the outskirts of Hollywood?
I don't know about that theory, but I do know that he did ad-lib that line of "it's not funny" when they laugh at his dick, and maybe that's further commentary on the whole thing. But I'd like to think, yeah, maybe there is a picture within a picture here. Maybe there's some commentary on his own life. I did not know about that incident.
You didn't?
It did not come up on my TMZ tour.
Again, this is like, maybe it's just my age, because I remember you had the incident with George Michael in a bathroom with somebody.
That I remember.
You had Hugh Grant with the prostitute.
That I remember.
And then it was Eddie Murphy with the transsexual, like the prostitute.
Don't remember that one.
Now you'll find it. People will remember.
I mean, he didn't really shape my sexuality, so I guess we don't have that bond. Well, now's the time in the podcast where we give our Shat score. The Shat score is our way of telling you how many wipes this movie takes to get off your respective butts. 0 wipes is a perfect movie. It's a dog in high heels. And 5 wipes is an absolute disaster of a movie. It's Chubby Rain. Big D, we'll start with you. What is your wipe score for Bowfinger?
So I was very surprised, Gene. Both of these actors I have an affection for. Huge Hollywood A-list stars. I wasn't expecting much, but I laughed. I thought it was funny. And it worked for me because of Jiff. It worked for me because of Eddie Murphy. The rest of it, whatever, it would have been an average movie, but I think Jiff and seeing Eddie like create that character with the braces and the smiles, and it was just such an innocence. An hour and a half, Gene, it flew by. I think this is better than average, probably better than it deserves. I gotta go 2 wipes. I liked it. I thought it was really good.
Well, I'm glad that we found a movie to sort of differ on, because I didn't think anything was really funny about this other than Jiff. I agree with you. Jiff was pretty good. I was impressed with some of the set pieces that they did, but I don't think it made up overall for just a self-indulgent movie. You know, Eddie Murphy did this movie because he wanted to work with Steve Martin. Steve Martin kind of, I think, just had the whole run of the show here. And that's what we got. And maybe Frank Oz is not the greatest filmmaker. I got to say that it's pretty bad. I have to go worse than Father of the Bride and give you 4.5 wipes.
Oh, it's terrible.
So that's 2 wipes from Big D, 4.5 wipes from me. And Big D, are we entering in the critical wipe score this week?
We had one of our listeners write in, brought up a good point where they said, including the Metacritic and the Rotten Tomato, it's not the same as what we're doing. What we're doing here is saying, does it hold up? A lot of those reviews were back in the day when it came out. So the mission statement of Rotten Tomatoes and Meta is not the same as Shat the Movies.
True.
Somebody reviewing it back in 98 will look very differently upon it now. So I think we're going to have maybe a Shat meeting, a Shat powwow. And we also have to contact the Shat calculator creator to do some adjustments. I think this is something that will develop over time, but I think right now it's still rough. It's still in beta. So we'll figure out how to get it going forward. But write in, tell us what you think, because at the end, we live to serve you guys.
All right. Well, without the critical wipe score, that gives us 2 wipes from you, 4.5 wipes from me, an average wipe score of 3.25 wipes.
Gene, with a wipe score of 3.25, that now ties us in the 243 spot, with Judgment Night and Dirty Work slightly better than Lost Boys and Caddyshack, slightly worse than In the Army Now and Of Mice and Men.
Better than the Lost Boys and Caddyshack?
No, but again, that's Roger. Roger gave it 4 wipes. That's not me. Fuck, I gave Lost Boys a 3. But again, we were inexperienced at that point. We were much like Daisy getting off the bus and fucking the accountant who wrote the script.
You're saying you were inexperienced, so you gave the Lost Boys a low score? Aren't the inexperienced generally more optimistic or more generous?
No, I was jaded, I think, at that point. I didn't know what good was.
That was my first episode.
I know. You gave some great insight.
You should have been pumped. I think I just brought some sunshine into this
really
podcast is what it was. All right. Well, Jose, I hope you think the 3.25 wipes is justice for your beloved Bowfinger after the injustice that we committed during Lady Hawk. And I hope you commission again. Thanks for listening. Big D, we do have some voicemail and some email to get to this week. And our voicemail comes from our good friend, Paul Carter, in Middlesbrough.
Now, guys, Paul from Middlesbrough. How are you? I'll try and keep it quick so no one has to listen to my Teesside tone for too long. Just listened in the last couple of weeks to Speed and Airplane. So I'll start with Airplane. It's one of my favourite episodes you've ever done. Fantastic. I laughed all the way through. Fantastic hearing 2 different opinions on the film. That's what we all want. I mean, if we all had the same opinion on everything, life would be fucking boring, wouldn't it? So, Gene, Big D, well done. You put your opinions of the film across and you did it with great humour and respect. I absolutely loved it. Well done, guys. And lastly, on Speed, who can not like that film? Everyone has to agree that it gets a low wipe score. Absolutely superb film, if a bit cheesy. But the star of the show, sorry Gene, has to go to Big D on this one. We all love you, Big D, but you have gone to fucking legendary status with the Ron Jeremy story. I swear to God, that is absolutely amazing. The only thing I would have done slightly different is when it came to Ron Jeremy throwing his love splash over someone, I would have done it right at the end after Keanu and Sandra kissed. But your timing was perfect, and the story is going to go down as a legend of a story and be told by other people, not just you. Superb stuff. Guys, absolutely love you. Keep it up. Up the fucking borough. See you later.
So just nobody ever thinks this is like a bullshit story. If you go back and listen to, I think the first episode with Roger, we talked about it. I'm not proud of it. And the love splash, that's great. But like I feared like liability. I know in let's just say in Europe, I don't think the laws are that big on being sued. I was afraid, Gene, for a long time that somebody would sue me for like traumatizing their child.
Oh, I'm sure that there is some sort of legal liability if you were to force a person to look at pornography against their will, Big D. Like you broke some law for sure.
But is there some kind of like statute of limitation?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine there is. I don't think they can like lock you up now. But you certainly, I bet you could still get sued for some sort of like a civil liability.
I don't. You can't prove shit. Maybe I just made this up. You can't. Maybe that was somebody else's love splash. I didn't do that shit.
That's right. Well, Paul, thank you so much for sending in your voicemail. And Paul, just so you know, I did send a little care package your way with some Phoenix Rising gear for you and Bob's. Thank you guys so much for listening and supporting both the Arsenal and Phoenix Rising, who are in the USL playoffs as we speak. And I hope I'm not jinxing that, along with my beloved Diamondbacks. So thanks so much for listening. Thank you for calling in. Sorry it took so long to get to your voicemail. We will do a better job about that in the future. Next up, we have an email from Nick C., who is writing in requesting a double feature commission. He says, "Hey, Shat Crew, I hope all is well with you guys. As I mentioned in my voicemail a couple months ago, I have been extremely overdue for a commission. Because of that, I figured I ought to make it a double feature. The movies I'm requesting to commission are Rumblefish and The Fisher King. Please let me know if these work, and I'll send the commission. Look forward to hearing from you soon, and thank you guys as always, Nick C." And by the way, Big D, in case you didn't know, Nick C. is Army as well. I've hung out with him in Nashville. Very cool guy.
He touched a nerve, Gene. I audibly gasped. I don't know if they could hear it. Matt Dillon, Rumblefish, my sister's crush. He lived right down the street in Mamaroneck. Yes. Fisher King. Yes. Robin Williams. New York City. That is a great film. I think it's Terry Gilliam. It is a great movie. I can remember watching. It came out around the time of Terminator 2. They're both movies that are required to be part of the Pantheon. But thank you. We would love the double feature.
All right, Nick, it sounds like Big D is into granting your fish wish. So we'll get to that and slap it onto the schedule. Just get in touch with me and we'll make it happen. Next up, we have an email from Greg, who's writing in about Deep Impact. He says, "Hey, Shat Crew, I'm interested in commissioning the film Deep Impact. I searched the calendar and did not see it, so please let me know if this is a film you'd be interested in reviewing. I seem to recall it having an excellent cast and being the superior asteroid doom film compared to Armageddon. It was also recently newly remastered in 4K. By the way, searching your calendar is a little clunky. It seems like maybe this is a WordPress site and we're trying to search via a prefab events feature. Anyway, I'm a professional software engineer with 30 plus years of experience and I'd be willing to volunteer some technical help if you need it."
Greg, come on, man. If you spotted that it was just a WordPress plugin, hook it up. Come on. You're 30 years plus. You could spot it. Yes. Help us.
Now, I tested this out. I went to the site. I used the search bar. I typed in Top Gun. Top Gun came right up. I typed in Deep Impact. It didn't come up, meaning that we haven't done it. So I don't know what the complaint is here, Greg, but Big D, as our webmaster, holds those keys. And if you'd like to work together, I'm going to leave that up to him.
You know that Armageddon, anybody who's listened since the beginning of the podcast, Armageddon, love it. Stamper and his crew, I love them. But Deep Impact, it was the more realistic of the two. And it was where they could keep the secret of what was going to happen. And yes, I would love to do that. To finish our extinction level event, Gene.
All right, Greg, sounds like that's a yes from Big D. So let's get that going. Next up, we have one from David, who says, "I'm David from Huntsville, Texas. I want to commission Men at Work because I grew up on a lot of these movies. Seeing that the podcast has shat on Maximum Overdrive, I was surprised to not see this 1990 film. Being born in 1999, the same year Bowfinger came out, I grew up spending a lot of my time watching movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s on VHS, DVD, and even going to Blockbuster to rent half of these movies. Having parents born in 1978, I feel fucking old right now, and only being 21 years apart from them, They had a lot of influence on the movies I watched. My father being an owner-operator truck driver, the time that he had at home, he would put on movies like Convoy, Smokey and the Bandit, and Over the Top. And since then, I'll always have a special place in my heart for these kinds of movies. And that comes from David C. in Huntsville, Texas.
Emilio Estevez, Charlie Sheen, Keith David. Is there a question, Jim?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this because they weren't with me when I was 2 years old, but I was an aspiring garbage man. It's the first thing I wanted to do growing up in Queens, seeing the garbage trucks roll by. I thought it was the cool. I still think it's pretty fucking cool. It seems like a cool job.
Yeah, especially when you get into the commercial or the more like what are they, the mob
Like
related.
The Sopranos?
Yes, you make good money. It is
Waste management.
Waste management, yes.
Guys, winter 2024 is looking real good right now.
Oh, looking great.
And finally, we have an email from Chris, and he says, love the podcast. Have you guys ever done Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
It's that damn clunky search feature, Gene. That's why I couldn't find it.
Yeah. So, Chris, to answer your question, it's one of the first movies we did. This goes all the way back to 2017. Big D, Raj, and I did Ferris Bueller's Day Off. If I recall correctly, I wasn't too keen on it, but it did fairly well.
I thought Ferris was fucking, we couldn't stand him.
Oh, that's right.
He was just this annoying kid who just got his way, was not endearing. We really didn't like Ferris. We thought the movie was okay, but we kept wishing that he would fail.
But yeah, if you haven't listened to us this whole time, definitely go back and check that episode out. Different flavor of Shat the Movies with Roger, me, and Big D, the OG lineup, and let us know what you think. All right, that's it for voicemail. Big D, what do we have coming up next week?
Gene, next week, Peggy Sue Bodle attends her 25-year high school reunion. After separating from her cheating husband, Charlie, she awakens in 1960, giving a chance to revive her life. She changes many things. However, some choices that she makes are complicated as she begins to see young Charles charm the true feeling she once knew. Gina, this was commissioned by Jen L., directed by Francis Ford Coppola, stars his nephew, and this is one of those films my mother loved. Great, charming stars, and it will be delightful to go back and watch again.
Yum, yum, nepotism movie. Well, thanks, Jen, for your commission. Thank you, Jose, for your commission. Thank you to all the commissioners who make this podcast possible. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat the Movies. Email us, host@shatpod.com. Support the podcast by shopping our Amazon affiliate link, buying our merch, or by commissioning your own movie. Find all information by visiting our website, shatpod.com. Also, check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV. Review TV series such as Lovecraft Country, Westworld, True Detective, Taboo, American Gods, Game of Thrones, and Watchmen. Find all information on our website, shatpod.com/TV. We're everywhere fine podcasts can be found, including Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by Apple Podcasts, please leave a 5-star review. It helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-host, Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Join us next week for the following movie.
Peggy Sue was once crazy about the guy she married.
I have certain unresolved feelings about your father. I don't trust him.
But tonight, at her 25-year high school reunion...
Well, Charlie won't be here tonight. We're getting divorced, actually.
She'll disappear in time and arrive in her senior year of high school.
What am I doing here?
You passed out for a minute, that's all.
Oh, Mom. What is going on?
You're home now.
What do you think, Peggy Sue?
You bought an Edsel.
Now, she's got the chance to start over again.
I have a headache.
This time, she'll know better.
Did we break up? Because if we did, I don't even know about it.
What if you fall into the hands of some madman with plans to manipulate your brain?
Well, that's why I was getting a divorce. I'm a grown woman with a lifetime of experiences you can't understand.
Girls mature faster than guys.
Digital watches and miniature television sets.
Oh, and huge radios. I mean, for some reason, everything else gets tiny, but portable radios get enormous.
Peggy Sue and Mr. Square Root.
Charlie, let's make love.
What? You mean sex?
From Francis Coppola,
Well, at least I got to see you and Grandma again.
Kathleen Turner,
Has this ever worked before?
The last time was 600 years ago.
Peggy Sue got married.
I could be trapped here forever.
Change your destiny. Marry me.
Will you marry me?
I don't want to marry anyone, Richard.
Why not? Polygamy's legal in Utah.
Nicolas Cage,
I'm proposing to you now. I may be crazy, but I'm not crazy enough to marry you twice.
Peggy Sue got married.
Peggy Sue got married.